Aguiar. We have the Honorable Judge O'Malley. We have Emily Welka from ICAC. She'll talk about what that all means, but that's Internet Crimes Against Children. Behind me are our 3 school resource officer, Officer Chris Nowick, Officer Garcia, and Officer Maxwell. Each one is in a different building in case if you are new to the buildings, but they are each our school resource officer in one of the buildings across our district. So I'm going to turn this over to Emily to let her start talking about some of the dangers that she sees at ICAC and some of the things that you can do to help protect your kids on this issue. And these things do happen inside of Brecksville and Broadview Heights communities, folks, and that's what we're here tonight to talk about, some of those things, obviously minus the names, but these things are occurring inside our city borders, and I think that's the important thing to take away tonight is that we're not immune to it, no community is immune to it, and so it's important to make sure that we're keeping our kids safe and knowing some of those things that you're seeing, or maybe not seeing, but what you can look out for. So here's Emily. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So my name is Emily Welka. I'm the Public Outreach Coordinator for the Ohio Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. And what we are is we are a law enforcement agency. We're under the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office. And our main mission is to identify, arrest, and prosecute those who are seeking to exploit children online. So a lot of the times in like the middle school, high school presentation, I'll say internet predators, online offenders, basically like the vision you have in your head of the adult, that's what I'm talking about. So within our task force, we have a lot of great resources. I always bring up our canine Diana because I think she's one of the coolest dogs I've ever met. She can actually smell the glue in cell phones, tablets, laptops, any kind of thing that holds memory, even like scientific calculators, she can smell that. So we take her out on our search warrants. Anytime that we need to go and look for devices, we bring her out with us. Her coolest find, at least what I believe, is that she found a video camera inside a charging block, or what looked like was an Apple charging block. And the cool thing about that was that if we were not able to find that, we would never have known that there was a victim living inside the house. So she's a great asset for us. We also have our investigators. So these are the individuals who are going out, making the arrests, interviewing suspects, and we have our analysts. These are kind of our frontline individuals who receive cyber tips first. They go through all of those reports and then they hand them over to the investigators. As a task force, we also work very closely with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. What they do is they monitor all social media platforms, basically looking for missing children. So if anybody posts a photo or shares a photo of a missing child, they're alerted to that. But they also monitor all platforms for child exploitation material, or child pornography, more commonly known. So the reason that I show these numbers specifically is to kind of give you guys an idea of how bad of an issue child exploitation really is. So in 2015, the only real social media app that kids have was Facebook. I go to presentations now and I ask kids, does anyone have a Facebook? And maybe one hand goes up. I was told recently that it's for old people, so it's not the biggest threat to kids as it once was. But in 2015, we were getting about 3,000 cyber tips a year, and that was about 250 cyber tips in a month. And a cyber tip is basically a report that the National Center sends us that has the platform name that they found child exploitation material on. It has the person associated with the account, the phone number, the email address, their real name if it's on there. They send all that information to us so that we can look into it to really understand what's going on. So in 2015, we were getting about 250 a month. So a large number still, but we were able, we had a handle on it. In 2021, post-pandemic, there's countless more social media apps out there that kids have, such as Snapchat, there's TikTok, Instagram, there's countless more that I don't even know about, that kids know about, that they tell me, and I'm like, okay, good to know, but so there's countless more platforms out there. There was a pandemic where everyone was home. There was nothing to do but go online. So in 2021, our cyber tips skyrocketed. In 2015, like I said, we were getting about 250 a month. Now we're getting about 250 a week. So that kind of goes to show that this problem is not going away. It's not a faraway problem that it only happens in big cities such as New York or Chicago. This is happening in Cleveland. This is happening in the cities surrounding Cleveland and the neighborhoods. And our task force is actually the third largest in the country. So we get the most cases out of any other task force in the United States. And there's 61 other ones. The only ones that are above us are New York City and LA. So I keep addressing the issue that this stuff doesn't happen just on TV or just in bigger cities. Like, this does happen in Cleveland, in Lakewood, Tremont, all of the surrounding areas. So it is a big issue for you guys to be aware of. Okay, so I show this slide in every presentation I do, whether I'm talking to middle schoolers, high schoolers, giving parent presentations, and these are all individuals that our task force has arrested over the past 4 years. So, from 2018 to 2021. So these are all individuals that have reached out to our investigators who were posing online as children, whether it was 16 years old, 14 years old, 13 years old. These individuals reached out to them believing that they were reaching out to a minor child for sexual activity. These are all individuals that traveled either from within the state of Ohio or from surrounding states. We recently had an individual who traveled from Kansas to meet up with us in, I believe, Streetsboro. So these people come from all over the place, but it also happens within the state of Ohio. So this is just another kind of giving you guys context to how big the issue really is. Because yes, we've made 108 arrests, but that's not to say that we couldn't have made 100 more, because there are thousands of internet predators out there, not only within the United States, but specifically within Ohio. Okay, I'm gonna kind of bounce around a little bit, because I'm gonna talk about strictly just sexting, how it affects kids, what the consequences are for sexting, all that information. Okay, so these statistics are from 2018, so pretty recently. It's a site called Thorn for Parents. I believe it was developed by Ashton Kutcher and his wife, surprisingly, but what it is they put out information related to child exploitation. So they talk about sexting, they talk about sextortion, they talk about different areas that kind of fall under the umbrella term of exploitation. So as you can see, these numbers are pretty large. So the first one is 1 in 5 girls stated that they've shared their own nude photo. That's 1 in 5 students here. That's 1 in 5 girls going to any school. This isn't just area specific. This is, I believe they sampled over 300 different schools, and this is the data that came back. So what these numbers kind of show you is that this is happening everywhere. This isn't a bubble situation where kids at this school aren't sending nude photos. It is very possible that kids are sending nude photos, and they do. So with these statistics, the biggest thing to keep in mind is that these are huge numbers because it's happening everywhere. This isn't, like I keep saying before, this isn't a big city problem. This isn't not a Cleveland problem. Like, this is a problem happening in your communities, in your schools, whether it's middle school, high school, sometimes even elementary school, unfortunately. But these are issues happening here today. Okay. So with sexting, a new criminal kind of subclass that we're seeing is sextortion. What sextortion is when an adult poses online as a kid. They take photos from somewhere online, and they basically present themselves as being a young child. And what they do then is they reach out to other young children, starting a conversation, gaining their trust, to eventually get the child to send them nude photos and videos. In certain cases, these individuals will send nude photos and videos that maybe they got from someone else, maybe they traded it with another online offender, but in certain cases they do send that first to entice the child to send them nude photos and videos. And then once that occurs, the conversation immediately flips to a blackmail situation. So what happens is the adult says, I have these photos and videos of you. If you don't send me a certain amount of money or more photos, I'm gonna leak these to your family, I'm gonna leak these to your friends, your classmates, your teachers, etc. So this has been a recent uptick in cases for us. It started probably increasing drastically in 2020, and we were getting probably a couple cyber tips a week related to it. Now we're getting at least 10 cyber tips, just sextortion cyber tips a day. So this is an increasing problem, and it goes hand in hand with young kids who are sexting. It also affects all age groups. The FBI, they put out reports related to sextortion, and they've reported victims as young as 8 years old. We've had victims as old as 17 years old. So it just kind of goes to show that there's no safe age. There's no age that is not affected by this. If the young child is sexting and feels comfortable sending those photos out there, there's a high chance that they're going to get involved with sextortion. Okay. Has anyone heard of this individual? Does anyone know this individual? Okay, a couple hands. If you don't know who this is James Woods. He was a student. He lived in Streetsboro. He was an avid track athlete. He was going to be looking at colleges soon. He had a very bright future, is what I'm trying to get at. And what happened was a couple of weeks ago, he actually took his own life because he got involved in a sextortion case. So what happened is it was around 12 a.m. We received the case after the fact, but he had received a message from someone that he believed to be a 16-year-old girl. The conversation continued for a couple hours, and the 16-year-old girl asked him to send a nude video, which he did. As soon as he sent that video, the conversation immediately flipped to where the 16-year-old girl said, unless you send me $500, I'm going to send this photo to your family and your friends. The conversation continued on till, I believe, about 6 a.m., where James eventually did wire the individual money. And then from there, the conversation becomes one-sided. So I've been, in my recent presentation since this happened, I've been talking to high schoolers about this. I've been showing middle schoolers his picture specifically, because this happened in Streetsboro. This didn't happen across the United States. This didn't happen in a bigger city than Cleveland. This happened in Streetsboro, in our backyard, essentially. So this kind of just I want to keep hammering home the fact that, like, your kids do not live in a bubble. This town is not a bubble. This stuff does happen, especially if kids are allowed to just kind of be on their phones all the time with no supervision and not understanding the consequences of their actions. So sexting prevention, I understand that it is a massive problem in high schools and now even middle schools. So as parents, it's super important to have the conversation about sexting. It's not okay to just give them this supercomputer where they can send photos to whoever they want, they can message whoever they want anywhere in the world. It's setting up your kids it's putting them in danger, essentially. As parents, it's important to say more than just sexting is wrong, because kids already know it's wrong. I go to countless schools every year, and I stand up here and say, sexting is wrong, don't do it, et cetera, et cetera. Kids understand it's wrong, but they need the context behind it as to why it's wrong. Something that I always bring up is that it's very illegal in the state of Ohio if you are caught sexting. It doesn't matter if kids send a nude photo to someone their own age. It doesn't matter if they receive the photo. It doesn't matter if they save it and share it. All of those are considered illegal in Ohio. So what that means is that your kids are given technically a juvenile case, and they have to go through a diversion program. Completion of this diversion program, then the case is closed, they can move on, but that still sticks around because it is technically a juvenile case. Excuse me. Having this conversation around why sexting is wrong could also be taken from the standpoint of respect in relationships. Someone who respects you as a person is not going to ask you to send these photos. They're not going to ask you to exploit yourself in this way. So, that's what I've been trying to tell parents, is that there's two ways to approach this. Number one is to say it is very illegal. There are serious consequences that can affect you 5, 10, 15 years down the line from this. But not only that, it's very disrespectful. Asking someone else to send these photos, asking someone else to take these photos of themselves and send them to another child, It's not how your kids want to conduct themselves. Okay. So with the amount of exploitation that occurs online, something that we're realizing as a task force is it's not an if situation, it's a when situation, unfortunately. So it's not if your child stumbles upon something that they know is inappropriate online, or they realize that maybe they've done something wrong. It's more of a when situation. So the biggest thing for you guys that you can do is documenting the incident. You want to take screenshots of the conversation. You don't want to delete anything. You don't want to retaliate against the individual or respond to the individual, and you don't want to conduct your own investigation. All screenshots, all evidence should be turned over to law enforcement, and you want to make a detailed report with them as well. So I talked earlier about the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They have a cyber tip line, which is their report system that you can file any kind of exploitation that occurs online to them directly. I put their website there. It's missingkids.org. And you fill out the cyber tip. It goes to their headquarters. They go through it, and then they send it off to the corresponding law enforcement. Okay. We put out a bunch of tips for parents. We put out things for young kids as well, depending on what our focus is. In October, we covered cyberbullying. In December, we're talking about sextortion specifically. But we put out a bunch of information on our website, as well as our Instagram, our Facebook, and our Twitter. Okay. These are some more resources that I give out to parents specifically. Most of them talk about just how to have those conversations with your kids, how to set up parental controls on phones, what are the best apps to use that have parental controls, and et cetera. All right, so that's the bulk of the information that I have for you guys. Do you guys have any questions specifically about ICAC? Or about sexting, sextortion-related cases, anything like that? Oh, at the end? Actually, we're going to do that at the end. I'm so sorry. All right. Do you want to go over?
My turn?
Yeah.
Is that your laptop?
Yes. Or no?
No. Okay. I do not need it, no. Okay. If you don't mind, yeah. Thank you. All right, good evening, everyone. So I do not have a PowerPoint presentation. I'm just going to kind of wing this a little bit. Just to reintroduce myself, my name is Jennifer O'Malley, and I am one of the 6 judges that we have in Cuyahoga County Juvenile Court. I've been on the bench for the past 4 years. Prior to that, I was an assistant Cuyahoga County prosecutor. I started my career there actually when I was in my first year of college. And so I've kind of come full circle with respect to internet crimes against children and now presiding over these types of cases. So when I initially started in the prosecutor's office, I would work closely with some of the internet crimes against children prosecutors. And at that point in time, as Emily was saying, they have investigators in the ICAC unit that do pose as children online in order to try to catch these predators that are exploiting our children. So back when I was a little bit younger, even through college and law school, they would use my pictures in order to try to catch people on the internet. And they would take pictures of me from when I was younger. And then they would also have predators that were willing to travel locally or to the state of Ohio, and they wanted pictures on demand right then and right there. And I would be at work and have to take pictures for these people to try to catch these predators that were traveling. And so from a very young age, that was something that I knew that eventually when I finished law school, I wanted to work in that unit, and eventually I did. And so I ended my career in the prosecutor's office as a prosecutor in the Internet Crimes Against Children unit, where I would prosecute adults as well as juveniles who were downloading and sharing child pornography, but also people that were involved in traveling to engage in sexual activity with minors, as well as people that were involved in some of the types of things that we're talking about here today with respect to sexting and sending out nude photos and mass distributions. As a judge in juvenile court, we have the jurisdiction to preside over any case on the delinquency side, which is the equivalent of, criminal matters involving juveniles. So anytime a juvenile will engage in criminal activity or delinquent behavior under the age of 18, it will come down to juvenile court. So those are the types of cases that I was prosecuting and am now presiding over. So I want to thank all of you, first of all, for being here. I know that you could be at home, you could be getting some Christmas shopping done, you can be watching TV, you can be spending time with your family. But I want to thank you for coming here to listen to us speak. And all of us have one thing in common. And that one thing in common is every single person in this room, whether you are a parent, a caregiver, a principal, superintendent, working for ICAC, we all have one thing in common, and that is that we are here because we care about our children. Our children are one of the most vulnerable citizens in our community. And I say that because, a lot of these children, when they are engaging in this type of behavior, first of all, because they are children, they are impulsive, and they're not thinking about the consequences of their actions. And we know that because the frontal part of our brain is not fully formed until we are almost 25 years old. So children may not even think that what they are doing is something that's going to cause them to end up having to come down to juvenile court or go to the principal's office. Young love in grade school, in high school, you start dating someone, you think that you're in love with this person, they might start asking you for pictures, you send it to them, you eventually might break up. You never know where those pictures are going. And I tell you this because it is, like Emily said, happening everywhere. And a lot of the cases that we see in juvenile court, depending on the type of crime, I will tell you that we see this happen in all areas of our county, of our state, and throughout the entire United States. Some statistics that I have for you, which I did receive from the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office with respect to the stats for 2022. And these are just charges and cases that they know about that have come to their attention. 62 different juveniles had cases involving at least one of the following charges: disseminating matter harmful to juveniles, pandering obscenity involving a minor, pandering sexually oriented matter involving a minor, illegal use of a minor in nudity-oriented material or performance, or extortion. And so those are the types of charges that whenever you have someone that is, say, receiving a nude photo of someone, you will charge them with illegal use of a minor. If you receive a photo and you then save it to your phone or you save it to your computer or a thumb drive, that is essentially like recreating that photo, so you can be charged with creating child pornography, okay? So when you are downloading it, when you are texting it to someone, both of those people are involved in child pornography, which obviously is illegal in the state of Ohio. If you are charged with one of these offenses and you are charged with creating it or disseminating it, that could be a felony of the second degree. So for those of you who aren't familiar with felonies and misdemeanors, a felony of the first degree is one of the most serious felonies you could have. It ranges from, your aggravated murder and your murder, which are not classified, to a felony of the first degree, which is an aggravated robbery, to a felony of the second degree. And then it goes down from there and then into the misdemeanors. If you are caught and your device, whether it be a thumb drive, your cell phone, if you just have it in a text message, you are in possession of it. So that could be, depending on the charge, a felony of the fourth degree or a felony of the fifth degree. And this is just having a nude photo in and of itself. It could be a child that is actually engaged in some sort of sexual activity or masturbation, things like that, can change the level of the offense. So to put that in context, a felony of the second degree for a juvenile could carry with it the possibility of going to our Ohio Department of Youth Services for a minimum of 1 year. And that's an indefinite sentence, and they can keep you there until your 21st birthday. So when I originally started in the prosecutor's office, I started in our juvenile unit. And I will tell you, that was about 10 years ago. I will tell you, back then, we didn't really have a lot of juveniles being charged with these types of cases. And I think it's evolved so much because we now have kids that have their own laptops. Kids are getting cell phones at very young ages. Apparently, I'm old now because I was probably one of the first generations to start out with Facebook when I was in college, and you actually had to have a college email address to even get on Facebook. So it's just so crazy to me to see how much this has evolved over the years. I got a cell phone when I was in probably 9th or 10th grade, and there was no apps. You could just text and call, and just to see how much technology has evolved over the years is crazy. And I think we all fall victim to some of the dangers that come along with technology. I mean, is there anyone in here that does not have a cell phone? Raise your hand. Is there anyone in here that does not have some sort of social media application? Raise your hand. 4 people, right? And I mean, I have Facebook, I have Instagram, I've had Snapchat, and I think we all fall victim to the fact that it's addicting sometimes, right? And these types of applications cause children to be constantly comparing themselves to other people, comparing themselves to, whether it's how people are living their lives, what they look like, the filters, all that kind of stuff. And it also causes children to have low self-esteem. We see a significant amount of mental health issues involving children in our court, whether that be low self-esteem, anxiety, depression, up to and including people committing suicide as a result of this. So the nice thing that the prosecutor's office in conjunction with the court did when they saw an uptick in these types of cases was to create what we call a sexting diversion program. And it's nice because of these 62 juveniles that have been charged this year, there were 6 of those 62 which were also charged with a contact offense. So sometimes you might have children who might even be engaging in consensual sexual activity, but unbeknownst to one of the participants, someone's recording it, okay? And so they can be charged with creating child pornography if they're showing it to people, that disseminating, or that sharing of it. So 6 of those 62 people were also charged with contact offenses, so whether that was rape, gross sexual imposition, or sexual battery. In the initial charging of these 62 juveniles, I'm happy to say that 41 of those were referred to the sexting diversion program. And so when that happens, they aren't charged with an official case in juvenile court. They won't come in front of a magistrate or in front of a judge. They will go through this sexting diversion program where they may have to give up their cell phone. It may need to be extracted by law enforcement officers. They will have to meet up with Emily, where she will provide a presentation to them and their parents regarding internet safety. They will have to take a quiz after, they might have to write a paper, they might have to do community service. There's lots of things that they can do to try to avoid their case going official. Of those 62, 20 of those cases did initially go official off the bat, and they were charged with complaints where they had to go in front of either a magistrate or a judge. And the types of cases that the prosecutor's office will actually make official either involved a contact offense, like I stated before. There was some form of extortion or sextortion. They actually had some other form of commercial child pornography where they downloaded it from some form or application on the internet. There was a mass dissemination, or they were a repeat offender. And other situations that we're seeing are, I'm assuming most people have iPhones. Have you ever seen when you go to text someone, you see the airdrop? Right? So how many of you have ever gone to text someone and you accidentally texted the wrong person? Anyone? I did it today. I was trying to text some of my friends and wasn't thinking and accidentally texted something to my husband, obviously innocent, but I mean, it happens to all of us and it could be an accident. But sometimes these kids might mean to text something to one person, and it airdrops to everyone around them. They might mean to send it, to one group chat and it goes to another group chat. So some of these can be accidents as well, but that doesn't diminish the seriousness of it, the effects that it has on the person that actually is in that photo. And as we know that when things go on their internet, they're very hard to remove, right? I personally think that a lot of things on the internet are probably up there maybe forever. And so, it's being a parent, being a caregiver, I think is one of the greatest things that we can do in life, and it's one of the greatest accomplishments, but it's also one of the scariest things. And it is scary every day because we just want to make sure that we are trying to do the best to protect our children, and we can't have eyes on them at all times. I know that these are not easy conversations to have with your children, but it's just one more conversation that we do need to have so that they know that they are respecting themselves, respecting their own boundaries, their own bodies, but also know to respect others and the long-term consequences that can have. When I was a prosecutor, I had a kid that was based out of the city of Lakewood, who this case came into us because he was actually sextorting someone in another country, and the investigation originated in a separate country. The Secret Service was involved, the FBI was involved, and they are always able to track where these devices are at due to IP addresses. And when they were able to track all of that, it came back to a kid that was in Lakewood. And they executed a search warrant on the house. They went in. I don't think they had Diana at the time, but they were able to recover multiple devices and were able to recover a lot of these different conversations and images that he was using. And he wasn't even an adult trying to sextort a child. He was a child sextorting other children across the nation and outside of the United States. And he ended up going to a residential facility because it wasn't safe for him due to mental health issues and other situations. It wasn't safe for him to be back in our community, so the judge at that time sent him to a residential facility. Also, with respect to legal ramifications, if you are adjudicated delinquent of any of these types of offenses, it also carries with it the possibility of being a registered sex offender. So if you're 14 or 15 years old in juvenile court, it's discretionary on whether or not you would need to be a registered sex offender, but we can register juveniles as young as 14. If you are 16 or 17 when you commit one of these offenses, it's mandatory that you register. And it could be, there's 3 different tier levels that it could fall into. But essentially it would be either tier 1 or tier 2, and that means that they would have to either register their address once a year for 10 years, or if it's a tier 2, they would have to register every 180 days for the next 20 years. So this obviously does carry with it long-term consequences that, children aren't aware of, nor should they be. I mean, they're not, expected to know that. But I just think it's important that we have this conversation with you and that you guys obviously understand that this is happening everywhere. A lot of these offenses, a lot of these types of cases that we see are happening in suburbs. I also preside over a safe harbor docket where we have victims of human trafficking. And that is happening here too, and that is happening in our suburbs. It's happening in hotels that are right off of Rockside, out in Westlake. So, there's no specific demographic or type of child that fall prey to this type of behavior. So it's important that we are obviously all aware that this is happening and that we are monitoring our children as best as we can, but also still letting them be children and grow up. And obviously, sometimes we have to make mistakes to learn from those. But it's important that children understand just how long this can affect them. One other story, and it doesn't involve sexting, but there was a girl that I know that was in law school, and she was in the top of her class. And she had some pictures on Facebook back in the day, and it was maybe a Halloween costume that was bearing some skin and maybe not a little bit appropriate. She had a lot going for her, and when it came time for her to apply for jobs at very big law firms, she got turned down from jobs because what do people do? Google you, look at your LinkedIn, look at your Facebook, look at your Instagram, see what type of pictures you're putting out there. She did not get job offers because of some of the pictures she may have had up there dressed in a Halloween costume from when she was in college. So it's just very important to obviously be mindful of the types of stuff that we're putting out there and to remind our children of that too. And then I'd be happy to answer questions a little bit later. Thank you.
Yeah, that's good. I'm Officer Mark. This is Officer Garcia. I'm actually in the elementary school. This year was the first year that I got assigned directly to the elementary school. So the last few years I've had the privilege to teach with Officer Garcia here. And we've actually had to go down as low as 5th grade to start talking about this stuff. And I know that seems kind of odd, but we've had cases that go that low. I don't have a script or anything prepared, so I'm just going to talk to you about what we see, okay? And a lot of it is things that we don't ever want to see again. Because when this stuff happens, it comes to us, and we have to look at it. How many of you have kids that have cell phones? Okay. Do they have Snapchat? Do they have Instagram? No? Are you sure? You might want to check. How many of your kids have a Snapchat account that you look at? Okay. Do they show you the other Snapchat account that they have hidden? Because I'll bet half of them do. That's what's going on. It's going on here. And we see it. We start talking to them in 5th grade. And we come out and tell them straight out, do not take pictures of your private areas and send them to anybody. Ever. Don't do it. Hopefully we get through to some of them. Some of them we don't. But you guys have to pay attention too. We talk to them about this. We talk to them about it in 5th grade. We talk to them about it in 7th grade. We talk to them about the dangers of the internet and all the things that they can get exposed to. Those phones that they have are so powerful. Half of them don't realize the power that they have in their hands and the things that they can do with those and how far-reaching it really is. You have to monitor your kids too. You have to pay attention to them. It's not just on a cell phone, it's on the computers too. You have to watch it.
It was very uncomfortable starting to talk to 5th graders about taking pictures of themselves, but we had to because it was brought to our attention that it already happened in our district. And so we usually did that in the 7th grade. And so that was pretty uncomfortable. I recall a case not too long ago when Mr. Rings was in the high school with me and we had to open some phones and see pictures of 2 of our kids that were currently in our building, not currently, but at that time were, and you recognized one, and I said, I don't know who this person is, and sure enough, and then we have to call them down and say, why is this being sent around, and people are getting it sent to them. We try to do the best that we can when we do come across these different cases. Our approach is, we're school resource officers for a number of reasons. Number one, this stuff was never in DARE. We've added it because we've had to, because we don't want our kids to get themselves in trouble because of a phone that they walk around with. Nor are we trying to tag them with felonies or try to, disrupt their growth and their ability to be positive people in our community and our societies. But we do have a lot of these cases where we take care of them in-house. We try to gather everybody who may have that picture that's floating around. Fortunately, the last few cases that we've had, there have been no facial images along with body parts, and so those are a little more difficult to pursue. But again, mostly these are children, and we're not trying to go we just want them to learn that this is not a good practice. This is going to get you in trouble somewhere down the line, and you may end up taking a picture that you can't get back, and we cannot retrieve from 5 or 6 kids. Because every time something like that happens, it's out there, and they have ways of sending it to, it seems like a gazillion kids before, it even is brought to our attention, and then we're swimming upstream, and it's difficult. It's very difficult for us to try to gather everybody who has knowledge of it, who's seen it, what they see. Very time consuming for the administrators in each building. So I spend most of my time at the high school now. And that is a challenge. We do have this happening from time to time, but we do talk to them, like Officer Mark said, in 5th grade. And then since I'm into middle school with the DARE program, not during the day on a daily, but we do talk with them about it. And we get into, and it was actually kind of perfect, 2 Februaries ago, I'm sitting in a 7th grade class right across the hall here, and my radio goes off, and we're on Independence's radio channel. We share that with them, Brecksville and Seven Hills. And I heard, Independence, I need you to start heading to the Ramada Inn. There's human trafficking task force members there that are looking for a 12-year-old female that has been missing for 6 months from the state of New York. They believe she's in one of the rooms there. And of course, all the kids in the class were like, can we listen to it? And it's a learning moment. So I'm like, yeah, let's listen to find out if they find this missing girl. And they did. And she was in a classroom. She was in a hotel room with 2 grown men, and she had been missing for over 6 months. And we talk about this, and we put this whole 40-minute program together that we've added on our own because it needs to be taught and talked to about with them about the new playground for these sex offenders and human traffickers isn't in the playground anymore. It's on the internet, and it's in pictures. And if they put this stuff out there, there are people that will scan these different sites, and they start putting their own little collection together. Who do they like? And then they start finding ways. Oh, there's a bees shirt. Let me see. Then they find out where they're at school. They take a picture in front of their house with their address on it. They do some of the things that they don't think that they're doing. And then they find out who their friends are. And so then they start looking at their friends' sites because nobody wants to be private anymore, because then I wouldn't have as many likes or friends or followers or reads. And so, it's something that we have to do. We are doing it as best as we can to get them to understand it's not all fun and games, and it can be very dangerous, and it is happening, and it does involve sexting. It does involve, I'm only on the road 2 months out of the summer because I'm in the schools and I have safety town. But this past summer, I was telling Mark, because I didn't realize how much it's picking up, but I went to 2 adults' homes, adults, not even children. And the adult male's looking at me saying, this woman asked me for money after I sent her a picture. And I said, well, dummy, don't send her any money. Don't send her any more pictures. Because the minute you send her money, what do you think she's going to ask for? She already asked me for more. I said, exactly. It's extortion. And you got rung up on something that this is gone. So you're going to have to kiss that goodbye and stop sending pictures of yourself out to people. So it's not just our children that are doing it. It's other people that just can't handle, I don't know there's an urge? I don't know. But this is privates for a reason. And so that's our approach with the kids. And hopefully we're getting to them. I don't really think it's gone down. I think we're kind of remaining steady. We keep running into these a little bit here and there. But we're doing the best that we can as far as to, keep it to a minimum and try to keep them out of any kind of serious trouble. Because that's the last thing we really want for them to end up having, to have happen to them. What else? Am I missing anything? You know, we have had people come from out of state. One matter of fact, about 9 years ago, we picked a guy up out here that was coming from Illinois to pick up a 14-year-old girl that was running out of the high school. She was going to cut class. And we had talked with her that morning because the dad found the guy in the house the night before, and he took off, and we didn't find him. And he had given her another phone. He had taken her cell phone, and while we're sitting in my office, we're talking, and all of a sudden the phone goes off. And he goes, "Wait a minute, I took your phone." Well, this is the phone that her 25-year-old online friend sent to her, and she could use when her parents took her phone away. And I said, "Answer it, find out what he wants, and just tell him yes, and you'll do it, and hang up." So he said, "I'm coming to get you. Where are you at?" "I'm in the office. I'm going to walk out in a few minutes. I'll meet you out front." So sure enough, he's on his way up here, and our guys arrested him pulling into the middle school lot. 25, and she was 14. And that's one we caught. I don't know how many of these we didn't hear about or didn't find out about because, you know, our kids aren't going to tell us everything like that. And it's pretty scary, but we do our best. I know here at the middle school, in the high school, dealing with trying to gather who has it and putting these away because it's, number one, it's embarrassing. Several years ago, I had a high school kid who humiliated himself in a video, and everybody saw it. And then we had to be on suicide watch for the rest of his senior year because this video got out. And I know they're not thinking of that when they do these things. So all we can do and is keep trying to reiterate to them that they need to start being smarter with their devices and not put stuff out there that they're going to not have the ability to bring back in, because once they send it, it's out there. Anything else? You got something?
I've been an officer for 21 years, but this is my first year as a school resource officer. And the first week that I was in this building, Mr. Rings pulled me into his office with Mrs. Malika and a student who was sending photos. And unfortunately, I had to see the photos, and I was shocked, and I was just hoping that this wasn't a pretense of what I would see every week. And like Officer Mark was saying, it comes down to parenting. I have a 21-year-old daughter who thankfully now is a wonderful girl, but when she was in the middle school age, she was a hard-headed young lady who fought me on everything. I tried my hardest to get her passwords, and she had Snapchat and all that. Even having her bring her cell phone down to the kitchen to charge overnight instead of in her room was a fight. It was such a fight. Thankfully, my wife at the time helped, and I know it's not easy. Parenting is the hardest when you have a hard-headed child, and my oldest daughter, that's the reason why I have no hair right now. But thankfully, like I said, I was lucky. She's a wonderful young lady now. But like Officer Mark was saying, it comes down to parenting. It's tough. I've been in your shoes. You're probably going through some things too, but you have to be, you know, it's something that we have to do as parents.
Thank you, Officer Maxwell. So I want to share a conversation I had with a group of students today, not even 12 hours ago. I had a group of students with me today at 11 o'clock and met with them for 2 hours, and I said to them, we were having this conversation with some of your parents tonight. What is it that you'd like me to tell them? Silence. We started talking about what was currently on their phones, and I said to them, is there any picture that you have currently right on your phone that if I picked up your phone right now and saw, you would be embarrassed for me to look at? Silence. What about your parents? If your parents took your phone and looked at your pictures on your phone right now, is there any picture, young ladies, that you would be embarrassed for your father to see? I got this. Young men, what about you? Are there pictures on your phone that if your mother picked up your phone that you would not want your mother to see? I got the same look. This is going on in our schools, and when I ask the kids, you know, about taking nude photos and if it's happening in our schools, they said yes. And then they said the most troublesome thing I think I've heard in a long time. They said to me, Miss Magyar, this is just normal. normal? This is how our kids are communicating today. Our kids are taking nude photos of themselves and they're sending them to their friends. They're FaceTiming each other while they are naked. So if you're allowing your kids in your bedrooms and they're talking to their friends, this is what they're doing. This was a conversation I had less than 12 hours ago with our students, elementary, middle, and high school. This is the new norm. This is how we talk. The high school kids told me that by the time they were a senior, they've grown out of it. It's no longer fun. I was told a story today, and Officer Maxwell was in my meeting with me today, and we heard a story about from another high school student who said, Miss Magyar, you know, there's this boy and this girl, and they were couples, and they were a couple for years. Okay, we're talking high school, so years they've been a couple. And they would send each other photos. And then they broke up. And guess what the boyfriend did with the pictures? How else do you humiliate somebody who just broke your heart? You post pictures that they sent you in the privacy of their intimate relationship. So we spent a lot of time today talking to these kids about it is never, never, never okay to take nude photos and send them, even from somebody that you trust. I'm sure I will get the facts incorrect, but this happened where a teacher was asking their students to send them pictures, offering them money to send them pictures, and these kids were sending pictures because this teacher was paying them. Not in this district, but this happens. So we tried to talk to the kids today about it's never okay, even from somebody you trust. If somebody is asking you to send the nude pictures, you have to tell an adult. If it's your parent, somebody at school, you have to tell an adult. It is never, ever, ever okay to send a nude picture of yourself. We try to reiterate, they are all minors. Every time they send a nude picture, it's child pornography. And so why are we having this conversation with you? Because we want you to know that this is going on, and it is going on in our schools and with your kids. I would challenge all of you to go home and ask your kids to see their phone and ask them if there's any picture on the phone that you don't want me to see. Don't be surprised at their answer. This is what they think their new normal is. This is not normal. It is our job at school to protect our kids. It's your job as parents to protect your kids at home. And my goodness, are we trying to do that in every way, shape, or form. We're teaching about it. We're having our DARE officers go in. They're telling these stories, how embarrassing it is for these grown men to have to look at little girls' vaginas because that's what they're taking pictures of. But we need your help. We can't do this alone. This problem is becoming bigger than us. We've got 2 situations right here at the middle school where a picture of a girl's vagina was getting passed around to every student. That case now has landed into a formal Title IX complaint that we are dealing with in our school district. This is bigger than us, and we need your help. And we wanted to have this blunt conversation with you to tell you that this is what we are actually seeing in our schools, and we need your help, parents. Because we do not want your children to get in trouble. We do not want your children to disrespect their bodies. You hear me say all the time that it is our job to make sure our kids feel safe physically in school and feel safe in their own bodies. They are not feeling safe in their own bodies if they think it's okay to send nude photos of themselves to people that they don't even know. We also talked to the kids about making sure that if you are on these social media sites, that you know these people in real life. There are thousands of people out here who are going to try to friend request. They're not on Facebook anymore. That's only for us old people. But they're going to Snapchat people that they don't even know. You shouldn't be talking to people you don't know. Our kids should not be interfacing with people they don't know online. This is scary stuff. And I did want to scare you a little bit. But we need your help. And we need you to really take us seriously when I tell you that this is going on in our schools. This was a conversation I had with our kids, not even 12 hours ago. This is their new normal. We got to stop that message. This is not normal. It is not normal for anyone to see any but kids' body parts at all. no adult sitting on this stage should have to see any of your children's private areas, genitalia, ever. But if this is what they're sending, it's going to land on our desks. So we hope this information was helpful. We're here as a panel to ask us any questions that you have around this. We showed you some resources. I'm sure we can share the ones that ICAC shared, that if you need help talking to your kids about this, please reach out to us to talk, because this is a difficult conversation to have. We know that. But we have to have it, and we can't be afraid of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple things before we conclude tonight. What can you do tonight? I think Ms. Magyar, I think Officer Maxwell and the police officers kind of gave you some hints, but I'm just going to clarify them a little bit more for you. Go home and have those conversations with your kids. Take those kids' cell phones. Look at all their photos. Look at every single one of them, all 1,000, all 2,000, whatever they have on their phone. Open up their Snapchat account. Find their fake Instagram. Find their fake Snapchat. That is a different name. Underneath Snapchat, there's a little camera roll, a private camera roll called My Eyes Only. Anybody know about that? It has a separate password on it. That's where they keep all their photos at, folks. And so you need to look through that photo as well. Then what I would do is go through every friend that they have listed on any other social media account. They probably have 600 or 700, because that's how many kids they really know, right? That's not the case, folks. Delete the friends that they don't know, that you don't know, they don't know in real life, because they probably aren't really friends. They just accept any invitation they get. And the biggest thing, I think, as Officer Max said, we learn from our own personal experience. I've got 2 girls, grown now, thankfully. But, I took their phones every night. They charged them in the kitchen every night, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, depending on how old they were there. Why? Because every day we hear that kids are up on their phone all night long. Look at the notifications that come in from 9 o'clock until 6 o'clock in the morning. You'll be amazed by the number of texts, the notifications, the Snapchats. Well, if they're sleeping then with that, they hear the vibration, they get up and they read it, they start to chat. That's where they make some poor choices. And then, worst of all, they're not getting the sleep they need to get ready to go to school the next day. So again, have a rule in your house. Be a parent. Hey, your phone's going to be somewhere, hopefully next to your Chromebook that's charging every night, right? Because we always still have that. So find a place where they can charge their phone, charge their Chromebook, and it's not in their bedroom where it's not interrupting their sleep. All right, so those are just some things that I would suggest that you can start tonight and get some stuff done tonight as well, and have those conversations with the kids. And please tell them that we need to know if they're having issues and problems. We're here for them, we're here for their safety, we're here for their well-being. I think we're going to open up some questions if you have any. We have some resources here from our CAPA ladies, Mrs. Lazar, who put together some things about some resources that you can do. Some of those things I talked about, they're on there as well. So are there any specific questions that we might be able to answer for you tonight? Yes? How to find hidden accounts was the question. Boy, it's hard. So I have obviously a cell phone, smartphone. I have 2 email accounts. You have to make sure that you toggle back and forth between the 2. Emily can probably talk a little bit, maybe, I don't know, or someone else who has seen this experience, but I know my kids had a fake Insta account. I happened to stumble on it because one of my other friends told me about it. So again, it's about having conversations with your kids, friends, and parents about those things, and they have those fake Instas. Now that has kind of died down a little bit because with Snapchat, they can only send it to certain people. So like my girls, our youngest is in college, and I don't see all her Snapchats. So I know she posts because my older daughter who lives with us now, I get to see all her posts anyway. But she doesn't include me in those Snapchats when she posts them out there. So a lot of that fake Instagram, I think, has died down a little bit. But I'm sure that some kids still have 2 different accounts. I don't have a good solution for you that. Emily, do you know anything specific on finding fake? I mean, other than different names, they come up with their own. Somewhere on the phone it's there. But yeah, that's a hard one to find those fake ones. Right. Right. So Mrs. McRail said, check your friends' accounts on finding, who are they friends with, and they're probably friends with their friend's fake account, if you will.
You have to really go through the phone, okay? You'll ask them about it, they're going to deny it. You have to find it. You have to go through the phone. They'll have it hidden under something else.
There used to be an app that was like titled Calculator, and it wasn't even really a calculator. So when they're saying go through the phones, like actually click on every single thing that they have on their phone, unfortunately, and
lot of fake apps out there that are specifically designed to hide other things. Specific photo vaults and other things like that.
So if you click on the picture on the phone, it might open up into something completely different.
Correct. So for the people out there listening online, the conversation was about make sure you're clicking on every app on your son or daughter's phone, because just because it says it's a calculator, it might be another social media account or a picture vault or a camera roll or something along those lines. So make sure you click on every application that you see, because it may not be what it says it is. Yes?
Is the only place to store pictures on the phone in the Photos app and any hidden apps? And maybe Snapchat has that.
Snapchat has some. I think Instagram has a camera roll. Snapchat. Discord's another one that's coming up big, which I think has been around for a while. But
Photos has the ability to multiple files in it.
Yep. There's photo apps out there that are like they're disguised as other apps, and they'll be password protected, so you can click on it and a password screen will come up. That's a good key, that there's another app in there that you have to get the password to, because that unlocks another app where it actually is hidden in. And they know this. They know how to hide this stuff.
yes.
How would you say fine for those apps that's hidden? How do you address that?
Who owns the phone?
The question was, who owns the phone?
It's their phone, right?
But it's in your name.
No.
Whose name is it
Your
in?
name, did you buy it?
You can always take it to whatever your server is or provider. and
Provider.
Have them, they're gonna need passwords, probably.
They're going to need your son or daughter's password to get into it, but take it to a service provider, Sprint, AT&T, whoever you may have doing that, and then they'll be able to help you provide, or able to get that. Apple Store, if it's an iPhone, they'll be able to help you, as long as, again, most likely, most of the kids can't afford $1,000 worth of phone, so it's probably in the parent's name at that time.
Maybe the other question that she's asking is if there's something that would be, nude pictures of.
Right. And I think Emily addressed some of that as take screenshots of it, do not send it, do not delete it, contact authorities, bring the phone to the Brecksville or Broadview Heights, bring it.
With the passcodes.
Right. So contact someone and let them know right away. Yes.
Actually, I have a list of apps that, there's like Norton Family, I believe is one of them. Life 360 is another app that parents can install. Yeah, there's tons of apps out there that,
Yeah. We'll see if we'll see if we can get the list from Emily. We'll try to get something posted and maybe follow up with some emails out about some of those good apps. I have Life 360 for our kids. So it's a good way to keep track of at least where their phone is. Obviously, it's not them because they can leave their phone behind. Yes.
Is it possible to have this slideshow available? I try to take photos of something.
Right. Yes, we'll get it, and we'll get it posted to our website somewhere, and maybe send it out through a constant contact, Ms. Megger. That way, everybody will have it through a constant contact and post it to each of the buildings' website. Okay. Great suggestion. Yes. Yep. Right there in the middle.
So being in possession of it in and of itself, you could be charged with a felony for having child pornography. Now, obviously we can't control sometimes what people are sending to us, right? I mean, anyone can just send us anything. So obviously, if you do the right thing and you tell your parent, that's up to you whether, you can find out who sent it, where did it come from, if you're able to tell who it is, and then obviously go to the proper, either the school, legal authorities. In that type of situation, I know me as a prosecutor never would have charged the person that was in receipt of that, obviously, and I don't think the prosecutor's office would do that, and they wouldn't make them go through it. Now, if you are asking to receive it, obviously, or if you're involved in then saving it on your phone, that's a different story. But yeah, just making, if your kids are making you aware of it, that's obviously a great thing. And then obviously if you're able to tell who's in the photo, who sent it, and try to take care of matters that way. But nothing I don't think would legally happen to your child in that situation.
I would just add too, if your child's in receipt and, they share it with you, the last thing you want to do then is take it and go, oh my God, look what so-and-so's kid just sent my kid. You do not, because then you're then sending it too. So you have to be really careful if your kids are going to show you something like that to do exactly what they said. Take a screenshot of it, get it off the phone, but making sure then that you're not, as a parent, accidentally, because again, you're furious, right? That your kid just got this text message or this picture of, a nude person or a nude friend or whatever, that you don't want to accidentally then be the one that is disseminating that to somebody else by saying, oh my God, look what my kid just got. And so, Mr. Rings doesn't want to see it in the email. Take a screenshot, physically bring it into somebody here at the school so that we can address it that way. But your emotions get the best of you, and we talked to the kids about this today. I mean, if you see something on your kid's phone, you guys are going to go crazy. As a parent, you're going to lose your mind knowing that these things are on your child's phone. Take a step back. I told the kids today, take a step back, process before you respond, because your first reaction, if you see something like that on your child's phone, or you see that your child receives something like that, it's going to be very emotional for you. Know that going in. And know that, your goal here is to keep your kids safe and to make sure that there's not sending things around or innocently doing things that they should not be doing to get themselves in trouble. But it's going to be reactive. Trust me, if you see something.
So if they receive a photo, you want us to screenshot it. I feel like that's opposite of what they said.
What we tell the kids, I'm kind of loud.
What should a parent do if the kid comes to them and says, hey, I received this?
All right, what we tell the kids in school, that if they receive a photo like that, not to delete it and to take it to one of us immediately, okay? That way we can try to get ahead of it. We can find out where he got it. We can contact that person, try to get ahead of it. We want to try to get it and gather it in as quick as we can. That's how we try to handle it.
A lot of times that's the problem, is they don't want to tell us where it's sent from, so they don't want to show it to us because we'll see who's sending them. And it could be kids screwing around, it could be malicious, it could be, dangerous. But if we can find out where it came from, then we start tracing it back and trying to get these kids to delete it off their phone.
So having like a cooperative kid and us being like a cooperative parent.
Absolutely.
What do we do then? Do we come to the school or do we go to the police?
You can come to the police. If it's
I would say it depends on where you're at, right? If it's during the middle of the school day, Officer Garcia is at the high school or the middle school, Officer Maxwell is at the middle school or high school, Officer Kroziak is at the elementary. Again, if it's on the weekend, during the summer, it's on a winter break, go right to the police station and let them know. You can email any administrator, you can email me. I have these guys' phone numbers. I will call them for you and tell them, hey, this family's coming up. This is what they got. Here, don't send me the picture. Just let me know what's going on, and then I will let them know
And
if
believe
that's
us,
more
we've been
comfortable.
called at all hours because of things like this. We've had
Right.
things that have blown up in the middle of summer. In fact, we had one right during home days 3 years ago? I think it was 3 years ago. And it just went like wildfire. All the kids are off from school. They all see each other at home days. Hey, did you see this? Did you see this? And before we know it, there's, 50, 60 kids that are all starting to show it around. And it's like, oh, God. That's a nightmare to get a hold of, to try to reel that in. It's hard. That's why we try to bring it in as quick as we can.
I believe there was another question back here. Did you have a question, gentlemen? Sir?
Yeah, we're grandparents, and how do we get ahead of that without kicking off our kids and, and saying it with the grandchildren? I can't get a conversation
With your grandkid or with your son? Yeah, I think that's a hard one. It's about having those conversations with your grandkids. Hopefully, obviously, their parents, depending on the family situation. The phone's probably in their name, about communicating with that, using the PowerPoint, using the resources, letting them know, excuse me, that is going on, that this is going on everywhere, and some prevention tips that they can use to help them through that. And, they can come up, they can talk to us here at school. We have, the officers are here. I'm sure we can get a hold of Emily and somebody from ICAC or somebody from the judge's prosecutor's office that can help us out in those areas if there are questions and concerns like that. Yeah, I think there was a question over here earlier. Yes, sir.
Todd, just to share, some people asked, you could actually look at the purchases on the iPhone, whether it's an individual iPhone or the family, by looking at the apps and the user profile. So if your kids are downloading the app, then deleting the app before they get home, the history will remain on the phone. So you'll see the apps that they have purchased or downloaded, so you can actually find out what they're doing.
Right, everybody hear what he said. You can find the purchases on the iPhone, probably can do that on the Android as well. Yes, thank you. Another question right there? Right. I'm not sure what the high school has planned. I know Officer Garcia is in the classes up there, and he does similar things. I know that we're going to make this presentation available to them as well. Chromebooks, it's interesting. We have a program called Securely, which blocks students from logging onto them and going to search for certain things. Ironically, I'm the one who gets all the ones from the middle school of kids searching for things that are inappropriate. I've been talking to several kids, and maybe they've told you, maybe they haven't. The funniest one I've got recently was 2 weeks ago is, why do the Browns suck? And it picked up the word suck and blocked the kid from going there, and it was on a Sunday that I'm getting these emails. So I probably get 100 a day and going through them and finding out what it is. I probably had another 40 after our assembly today, which I was a little disappointed in, that they were looking for things, porn-related, games that were from Russia that are typically not, good games that they can get onto. But we do have, ours is called Securely, and it blocks them from going to certain sites, and it lets us know when they do.
And administratively, the high school handles that the same way. They are made aware by tech whether or not somebody was looking up things that are, red flags, or like, why were you doing this? What was going on? Were you writing a paper about, German Nazis, and what, why are you looking this kind of stuff up? And then, different types of guns and stuff. We've had that happen a few times, and it's been explained, and there's been no reason like go any further as far as, with
Right.
what they're doing. And then there's been others that have had their stuff taken from them, and, then they have to clean it out, and they deal with them as a disciplinary measure. It's not a crime for you to use your school laptop to look up goofy stuff. That's against the school policy, not a criminal matter. So unless what they're doing obviously is violent or something that we need to look into.
But you can also have protections at home on your own Wi-Fi. Again, they're using our Wi-Fi. We protect it a little bit stricter than what you probably do at home for obvious reasons. You're adults. But again, remember, you do have kids that are using that Wi-Fi too. When you have slumber parties, they probably pick up on your Wi-Fi. Now you have a whole group of people looking at that Wi-Fi, and maybe whatsoever your protection is at home. I just cringe from thinking about sleepovers, right? I've heard lots of stories about them. Yes?
That was going to be my question. I know there's a lot of things for the cell phone, but protecting a laptop, what can we do as parents?
On your Wi-Fi at home, you can put preventions in. I'm drawing a blank on the correct term. Privacy, security, parental controls. There you go. That's what I was looking for. Parental controls. Each provider will give you instruction on how you can add parental controls, and you control it from the type of, PG-13, R, triple, and all that kind of stuff. You can do that through your provider, and they give you directions on how to do that for your home Wi-Fi stuff. Yes.
But we were like, and I include myself in this, but we were parents that were like, do we get our kids cell phones? And when I was asked when I first got into schools, I was like, oh yeah, probably like, and now I wish I would have said, don't ever get them one. They're fine. When they're driving, you want them to have a cell phone. When every school building and every classroom has a phone in it, if they need to call you during the day, they'll be afforded a phone. And even if they don't have one, 10 of their friends will have a phone. but we rushed and we got them that, and so when they were this little, they had all this technology at the end of their fingertips, and then they introduced themselves to a lot of different things that, you know.
When they've gone away from the flip phones, they're hard to find. Anybody still have a flip phone? My dad still does, which, what are you doing with that thing? But he likes it, he enjoys it. You know, but our kids, you know, the other day, I had to talk to one of the two, I think Officer Maxwell. Kid had a gizmo phone, right? It's on their watch. I don't know what happened. It dialed 911. What? Yeah, I don't know what happened. I hit something and it automatically dialed 911. So that's why at the middle school we say we're not having phones. They go in the locker, they stay there. But again, now they're bringing smartwatches in. They're bringing phones in with gizmos, and they're calling 911 I'm guessing by accident. Mr. Berlin, another question?
Yeah, you just stole my thunder, but I said, as the parent of the only 8th grade without a cell phone, the Apple Watch and the Gizmo Watch are good alternatives because you can go a standalone Apple Watch where they can call you, text you, you can track them, but they can't download any apps. There isn't a limit, but
Yep.
it works and the Gizmo works as well.
I applaud you and keep up that fight because I know it's hard because I know we're going through it 10, 12 years ago. It's a hard fight to do that, especially when they start saying everybody else has got one. Mom and dad, please, please, everybody else has got one. That's fine. Again, they're great tools. I'm a computer science major, computer science teacher. They are great tools. They're also bad tools. I think Emily said today, they are tools. Sometimes they're used for good, sometimes they're used for bad. So we have to make sure that we're making sure that our kids are using them the proper way. Other questions? One more.
We know that it seems that Snapchat is like the hip social
For now,
younger crowd.
right?
Is there another social media platform that might be safer or appropriate?
All of them can be abused. They like Snapchat because they think it goes away in 24 hours. It doesn't. It doesn't. It's there. Snapchat has it. And if another kid screenshots it, now they have it. So it doesn't, yeah, it disappears from your Snapchat story, but if someone screenshot it, then they have it. They take a picture of it on somebody else's phone. Now they have it. So I don't think any of them are safe. It's just about being proactive and making sure you're having those conversations with our kids. One more?
Just a comment.
Sure.
Some of high school sports teams communicate through Snapchat. Now, I'm not in high school, but I've heard from my friends, like the volleyball team, the soccer team. As a team, like saying where practices are, what time to be places, use Snapchat. So maybe could we?
I think I'll give that to Ms. Magyar because you're telling me something I've never heard before.
And the coaches are not involved in it, but it's.
The players do themselves, yeah, because they can create a group.
The students are led. The coaches are told that, and again, they don't listen because it's too easy, right? So there's things that are too easy. People go, I'm still doing it. So we tell the coaches all the time, there is no good reason. You will never convince me why you should have any of your teammates or your team members' cell phone numbers. Shouldn't do it. We provide you an app called Remind that if you have to cancel practice or you need to change the location, you use that app to be able to do that. None of the coaches do. Why not? Because it's too easy to send a text message. Well, guess what? Half the staff in the United States who have gotten caught having an inappropriate relationship with students, where did it start? Through a text message exchange. Why, coaches, would you even put yourself out there that a kid could send you something inappropriate or you would send a kid something accidentally inappropriate? And it's happened. As I think Judge O'Malley stated, have you ever texted somebody wrong? We had a coach who accidentally texted the team something that should not have been texted to the students. Wrong. No good reason for adults to have student cell phone numbers ever. And if your students have their coach's cell phone number, I'd make them delete it too, because no good things happen when adults in a supervisory role have kids' cell phone numbers. We have platforms that are appropriate for coaches to communicate with students and you as parents. Period, end of conversation. So if these are student-led groups, we can definitely talk to our student athletes about using Remind as well, because it's something that can be monitored and we know what's being sent out.
I think it's like a coach telling a captain in a nasty way.
It's probably a coach saying, hey, Billy, there I go, Billy, sorry, Sally, Sally, will you please tell the volleyball team that we have practice at 8 o'clock today? They sent him an email, please let everybody know. And so as Sally's being the captain, away they send. So we got to find a better way to do that because it is kid-led. But I think that's a conversation we can have with our athletic director and talk to them about some different ways to do it. I apologize, Bill. Thank you for our esteemed panel tonight. We appreciate everything. Thank you for giving up some time for you. Thank you. You know, I wish this would have been 800 people in here tonight because this went out to the entire district and it affects every one of us. So thanks again for coming tonight. If you have any questions, we'll be here for a couple minutes. We do have some other information up here if you didn't get it at the beginning of the night. Otherwise, drive home safely. Have a great day and enjoy your holidays.